His Excellency Dr. Mulatu Teshome, President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, His Excellency Dr. Inagar Dase, with the rank of Minister, Commissioner of the National Planning Commission of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Honorable Ministers, distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished delegates of member states, His Excellency Dr. D. Pengda, co-chair of the Committee of Experts of the United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management, UN-GGIM, His Excellency Mr. Oliver Chingania, Director of the ECA African Center for Statistics, and His Excellency Dr. Christian Lehman from the Joint Board of Geospatial Information Societies, leaders and experts on geospatial information management, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the local organizing committee, composed of members from the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA, and the Ethiopian Mapping Agency, it's a great honor and pleasure for me to welcome you all to this fourth high-level forum on United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management, UN-GGIM, organized by the Secretariat of UN-GGIM and co-hosted by the government of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. Please also allow me, Your Excellency, Dr. President, to take this opportunity to thank particularly you and all the participants for taking time off for honoring our invitation and taking time off your busy schedules to attend and to contribute in the deliberations of this August forum. His Excellency President Dr. Mulatu, honorable ministers, distinguished participants. It has now become evident that the availability of up-to-date, accurate, and authoritative geospatial information is a primary and critical component of a modern land management system essential for good land governance. It's with this understanding that the Committee of Experts of the United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management decided to dedicate the fourth high-level forum to issues related to good land governance and land information for sustainable development. We have about 7 honorable ministers, well over 400 invited participants from 67 countries, comprising of delegates from member states, representatives of United Nations agencies and other multilateral organizations, geospatial industry representatives, representatives of non-governmental organizations, and leaders of geospatial societies are in attendance today in this fourth high-level forum of UN-GGIM. From the number of participants and participating member states, it's the most successful forum to date, and I hope the forum outcomes will also reflect this. I trust the forum will prove to be productive for us all and help us to come up with final recommendations that will lay the foundation for good land governance for the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. With these introductory remarks, I now call upon Mr. Greg Scott, replacing His Excellency Mr. Stefan Schweinfest, who missed his flight, was the Director of the United Nations Statistics Division and head of the UN-GGIM Secretariat, to deliver his opening remarks.
Good morning. Mr. President, honourable ministers, excellencies, distinguished delegates, friends and colleagues. As my good friend Sultan just mentioned, I am not Stefan. And he does send his humble apologies for his transport dilemma that he is currently has, and he will be here tonight. So apologies for that. In the interim, on behalf of the United Nations, I warmly welcome you all to this fourth high-level forum on United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management, and with that theme of good land governance for the 2030 Agenda. And in that regard, being held here in our UN ECA headquarters in Addis. and you will agree, very nice facilities they are too. I would like to firstly express my very sincere gratitude to the government of Ethiopia and my wonderful UN colleagues in UNECA for hosting this very critically important meeting in partnership with the UN-GGIM Secretariat. In particular, I would like to pay tribute to the local organising committee, who capably led by Mr. Sultan Mohammed as the Director General of the Ethiopian Mapping Agency, but also as Chair of UN-GGIM Africa, and also Mr. Andre Nonguera in the Geoinformation and Spatial Statistics section within UNECA. Many of you will not be aware of the tireless efforts that they have put in the background to bring this meeting together, and on behalf of all of us, would like to thank you and your team for those efforts and for giving us the opportunity to take up this important global topic and for bringing the discussion here to Addis, to Ethiopia and to Africa, a region that has more to offer than any other on this subject on good land governance. This high-level forum does carry with it a sense of urgency. As many of you will be aware, in September 2015, the United Nations General Assembly adopted the New Development Agenda, Transforming Our World, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. This global policy will guide the way we collectively manage and transform the social, economic, and environmental dimensions of humanity and our planet over at least the next 15 years. The 2030 Agenda is anchored by 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, 169 targets, and now a global indicator framework of 230 indicators in order for us to measure and monitor progress. Unlike the Millennium Development Goals, or the MDGs, the 2030 Agenda is much more transformative in its intent and recognises the need for new data acquisition and integration approaches to improve the availability, quality, timeliness and disaggregation of data to support the implementation of the New Development Agenda at all levels, local to global, global to local. In this regard, the 2030 Agenda specifically challenges us to exploit the contribution to be made by a wide range of data, including Earth observations and geospatial information. Therefore, coming back to the theme of the forum, and while not a singular goal in itself, many aspects of land are captured within and underpin the 2030 Agenda. Specific areas include poverty alleviation, food security, water and sanitation, gender equality, healthy lives, sustainable agriculture and production, sustainable cities and human settlements, forests and ecosystems, and land degradation and biodiversity loss. The SDGs, the targets and indicators related to land at the global level will be important in order to deliver on better land governance, tenure and land rights at the national and local level. Your considerations on good land governance for the 2030 Agenda can build on the many dialogues and ongoing initiatives of the United Nations programs convened in recent months, including in the land metrics of the Global Indicator Framework, which has just recently been agreed by the United Nations Statistical Commission and is about to go forth to the Economic and Social Council of the UN. Therefore, we are very pleased to see a number of key and globally important geospatial topics in your sessions. In your deliberations, you will discuss land information for sustainable development, good land governance and regulatory frameworks, geospatial land information, technology and capacity development, and shared objectives and partnerships. Importantly, you will do this after hearing from ministers and leaders from our global community. They will inform us of their own national policy challenges and perspectives on good land governance. And as with past high-level forums, such dialogues have and will continue to prove to be extremely valuable in providing insights to high-level government needs and processes, and very much enriching our discussion and knowledge. In closing, I am pleased to see many delegations and participants here in Addis. Overwhelming support, and we thank you very much for that. The global diversity of the expertise that we have in front of us this week, and the representation from many of our colleagues from Africa, means that we are very well represented in our discussions. I also particularly would like to welcome and thank our international partners and private sector for their contributions and their attendance in the program. This high-level forum offers a very unique platform for free-flowing, open and inclusive dialogue. This greatly assists UN-GGIM as a committee and as an intergovernmental process to shape national systems, to influence common practices, and brings our professional community together both in the public and private sectors to harness the power of geospatial information. In that regard, I invite you, as experts from many different countries, to work together to this end. I wish you a productive meeting over the next 3 days and very much look forward to the interactions with you all. Thank you and have a very enjoyable 3 days.
I now call upon His Excellency Dr. Lee Pengda, co-chair of UN-GGIM, to make his opening remarks. Dr. Lee, please.
His Excellency Dr. Mulatu Teshome, President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, members of the Global Geospatial Information Community, on behalf of my co-chairs of UN-GGIM, Mr. Tim Traynor and Mr. Rolando Ocampo, let me first express our sincere gratitude to the government of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa for their support and generosity in bringing this important event to Africa, and Ethiopia in particular. We extend a warm welcome to you all for this fourth high-level forum on global geospatial information management here in the United Nations headquarters in Addis Ababa. As you will be aware, this particular forum has been a vision of UN-GGIM for a number of years. It was at the 5th session of the Committee of Experts on UN-GGIM in August 2015 when this vision began to be realized through the efforts of many of our country representatives. In 2015, the committee acknowledged the importance and the need for geospatial information as an essential base for an effective and efficient land information system to support the administration of land policy frameworks, customary rights, security of tenure, property rights, sustainable development, and overall environmental, economic, and social well-being. In this regard, the committee rightly decided to take a global leadership role at the policy level to raise political awareness and highlight importance to decision makers of the need for timely and fit for purpose land administration and management, supported by capacity development, particularly in developing countries and vulnerable regions such as in Africa. The committee quickly established an expert group to undertake the work needed to advance the activities related to the administration and management of land, and strengthening the use of geospatial information for good land governance. Importantly, the committee also approved and supported the convening of this high-level forum to specifically be held in Addis Ababa, Africa, and with the overarching theme, good land governance for the 2030 agenda. It is worth noting that at the time of making this decision, we questioned as to whether such an important global meeting could be organized and convened in such a short period of time to do justice to the topic and the location, and if we could attract a strong participation by our member states. However, with some 400 delegates in attendance and a very rich and diverse technical program with more than 60 presenters, you, our globally geospatial community, answered that question very positively. Thank you for this amazing and unprecedented support. It is with this spirit that we gather in Addis for this meeting to share and better understand countries' experiences, priorities, and challenges with regard to the use of geospatial information and how it can be channeled into land policy development and implementation, demonstrating practical examples of land administration success stories. This week, we have a unique opportunity to share and learn from each other new ideas, methods, and strategies to support local, regional, and global land administration and management initiatives. Welcome everyone, and please engage, share, and enjoy the meeting. Thank you.
I now call upon His Excellency Dr. Christian Lehmann, representing the Joint Board of Geospatial Societies, to make his opening remarks.
Mr. President, honorable ministers, excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, friends, good morning. I have the great honor to give opening remarks to this high-level forum of UN-GGIM on behalf of the Joint Board of Geospatial Information Societies. The chair of the board, Professor Chris Rios, congratulates UN-GGIM with bringing good land governance for the 2030 agenda to the context of geospatial information management. Good land governance requires good land administration. Land administration documents and informs about who is owning or using what and where. It is an overview of people-to-land relationships. It is linking people to space. At the global level, 70% of those relationships are not documented, or even more. Information about who, what, and where can only be generated with the support of geospatial disciplines. The Joint Board of Geospatial Information Societies deals with a broad range of geospatial technologies and applications. They range from satellite and drone imaging and mapping to geodesy, precise positioning, geoinformation science, cartography, spatial data infrastructure, and many surveying subdisciplines. Land administration in support of good governance is one of those disciplines. Land administration has a geospatial component providing overview of parcels or spatial units. Relationships between people and land may be of a formal, informal, or customary nature. Many of those relationships are not recognized. There is no inclusiveness for all. Meanwhile, populations and cities are growing, and the pressure on land and national resources is continuing to increase significantly. That leads to disputes and conflicts. A land administration system provides a government with an infrastructure for securing land tenure rights for all, and land management and development. A fit-for-purpose approach in land administration has been developed by global stakeholders. It is a gender-sensitive, transparent, and highly participatory approach. With the support of geospatial technologies, this approach can be implemented quickly. Ladies and gentlemen, governments need information to govern. Land information is a key data set. There are costs related to its implementation. The cost of not having such an infrastructure may be higher, given the impact of population growth, the urban-rural interface, climate change, and the appearance of disaster. The challenge for the global land community and for the global geospatial information associations is clear. Secure land rights for all people in all places at all times. The biggest challenge is to keep the information on those land rights up to date and accessible. A new era in land administration emerges, one underpinned by a wave of innovative thinking and coupled with quickly maturing, scalable approaches. Supported by the world-leading private companies, modern geospatial technologies, and a new professional mindset, the provision of land administration that supports good land governance now appears to be a feasible objective within the current generation. It depends now on political willingness and capacity development. We welcome your contribution, support, comments and observations. Let's make it a dynamic event. I wish you a proactive participation with a lot of energy and motivation. I wish you a good conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lehman. I now call upon His Excellency Mr. Oliver Chingania, Director of the African Center for Statistics, to make his opening remarks.
Good morning. His Excellency Dr. Mulatu Teshome, President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Your Excellencies, Ministers who are present at this function, His Excellency Dr. Lee Pege, Co-Chair of the UN-GGIM Committee of Experts, Your Excellency Mark Kegan,
Dynamic event. I wish you a proactive participation with a lot of energy and motivation. I wish you a good conference. Thank you.
Excellencies, commissioners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. On behalf of Dr. Carlos Lopez, the Executive Secretary of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, I'm delighted to welcome you all at the headquarters of the Economic Commission of Africa, where the 4th High-Level Forum on the United Nations Global Spatial Information Management has been organized by ECA in collaboration with the government of Ethiopia through the Ethiopian Mapping Agency and United Nations Secretariat. The theme for the conference, Good Land Governance for the 2030 Agenda, is not only relevant, but is also timely as Africa accelerates its economic transformation agenda. Land information and its management are fundamental to successful land administration and derived benefits and overall sustainable development of countries. It is the base of all human activity and provides support for all life on earth. Access to land is therefore a very important part of human endeavor and achievement. Land is limited and is not only fixed in quantity, but also exists in fixed places. In a few instances and in isolation, land has been reclaimed from water, but has also substantially increased in terms of quantity to the already existing fixed land. There is also another level of problems, namely ownership and management. Therefore, there is need for relevant institutions to control and regulate the complex relationship that exists between and among members of the society by virtue of their co-occupation and use of land. These land management relationships, as they are called, consist of three important aspects, namely the rights a person may have on land, ownership of these rights, and the information about these rights and their associated rules. It is this last aspect of the information about rights and their associated rules that you will be deliberating upon in the next 3 days. To manage any resource, we need to know what we have. We need an inventory of the resource, describing the resource, giving details of their features and characteristics. Unfortunately, the problem has persisted despite the use of surveying, mapping techniques to delineate and describe land resources. This situation is more pronounced in Africa, mainly because of lack of information to inform evidence-based decision-making. There is an information gap on what resources are available and where. This has resulted in a lack and poor investment decisions, and hence the disconnect between investors in the developed world and investment opportunities in Africa. Where information exists, normally it's outdated, uncoordinated, and sometimes incomplete. As you may know, Africa has a poor mapping coverage of 2.9% at the scale of 1 to 25,000, as compared to other regions such as Europe, with nearly at 87%, and America at 54.1%, and Asia at 15.2%. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates, in the framework of the Agenda 2030 on Sustainable Development, it is of significant importance for Africa to have access to real-time and precise spatial information, given its size and complex biophysical environment, to support effective decision-making on land management. For instance, while Africa's demographic trends, including rapid urbanization, represent economic opportunities, they are also representing real challenges with regard to human welfare and infrastructure needs. Because of poor or lack of information availability, Africa is at a risk of increasingly not being able to understand the scale, the speed, and the locations of newly developing urban areas and information settlements. It is therefore critical for the information with a location component to enlighten the continent's sustainable planning and development. Credible land information and good land administration is fundamental for responsible governance of tenure, managing the land use, coping with climate change, enforcing equity, as well as human rights. This can only be attained with innovative mindsets of land professionals to develop new approaches, as well as the various interactions across generations of land professionals to ensure implementation over time. In order to effectively measure, monitor, and mitigate sustainable development of land, it is necessary to use geospatial information to link together demographic, statistical, and environmental data. The question is, how do we take advantage of enabling capabilities of new information technologies and systems, especially geospatial information technologies, which are usually not well developed in Africa? This is one of the reasons this August House assembled here has to address this challenge and others. We are happy to have participants from all over Africa and beyond to assist us in addressing these issues. I must make particular mention of our friends from other regional committees of the UN-GGIM, who have been most generous with their time, their energy and resources in making it possible to tackle the ambitious agenda we have proposed to you for the next 3 days on land governance and management information systems. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the fourth high-level forum on United Nations Global Spatial Information Management provides a distinctive opportunity to build sustainable systems which can identify the way land is occupied and used and provide security for tenure and control of the use of land. Effective and democratized land governance is at the heart of delivering this global vision of our future as laid out in SDGs. As encapsulated in the ECA new paradigm of transformation development, a renaissance of Africa, putting Africa first, we need to renew our collective commitment to deliver relevant information that could promote and sustain economic growth. This information has added value. It can be spatially represented, leading to better informed decisions to provide the right services at the right time, at the right place. The new paradigm goes along with generating and disseminating diverse knowledge products to inform development decisions and track and monitor implementation. Therefore, the Commission is emphasizing Africa First, which implies representing the continent development agenda from an African perspective, basing on the continent policy analysis and advocacy on sound and verifiable evidence. I'm happy to say that geospatial information and its enabling capabilities will play a key role in the economic transformation reforms. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, African governments and other sectors of society have become increasingly aware of the importance of geospatial science and technology as a tool to facilitate spatial data collection, access, and use in the decision-making processes, both nationally as well as regionally. Supported by the emergence of a community of robust geospatial experts such as yourselves, geospatial technologies are gradually becoming the driving force of many applications and services, from land administration to natural resource management to agriculture across countries such as Kenya, Ghana, Rwanda, and South Africa, just to mention a few. To this end, I'm expecting the high-level forum to explore and deeply look into the trends, practices, and current developments of good land governance for the 2030 agenda, as well as propose updated guidelines that we can draw upon for future initiatives. The deliberations of this conference will offer important inputs and recommendations on how to leverage geospatial technology in Africa to meet the continent's priorities outlined in the Africa 2063 vision and the 2030 agenda. In my mind, we all have a part to play and a duty to the global society to share knowledge and contribute to the dialogue that will lead to solutions. We must, however, go beyond dialogue to walk in the talk. As the former Secretary General Kofi Annan said, we must move from promises to practices, from commitments to concrete projects, from intentions to implementations. The conference is expected to come up with concrete recommendations and a checklist of desirable actions for ECA member states, partners and private sector and the civil society implement in order to help steer the future development of geospatial applications and land governance and management in Africa. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates, I would like to conclude here by congratulating the United Nations Committee for Experts on the UN-GGIM, the Regional Committee of the UN-GGIM, and all partners of for the excellent collaboration exhibited in the preparation of this particular conference. The ECA remain resolved in forging the relationship with the United Nations Committee of Experts on the UN-GGIM and other partners to ensure that the objectives are attained through the promotion of comprehensive dialogue on global spatial information management with all relevant governments and non-government organizations and the private sector. The Commission remains committed to promote and support technical activities in such a way that they anticipate the future potential use of geospatial information resources to address emerging issues of land governance on the continent. I wish to reiterate and assure you of ECA's willingness to use its convening power to enhance its dialogue with member states, African sciences and research institutions, as well as the other sectors, in order to increase awareness and ensure the geographical science and technology permeates every aspect of our societies. I wish the high-level forum great success in its deliberation. I thank you for your kind attention.
It's now an honor for me to call upon His Excellency Dr. Addis, with the rank of Minister, Commissioner of the National Planning Commission of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, to make a welcome statement and invite His Excellency Dr. Mulatu Teshome, President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, to officially open the 4th High-Level Forum on UN-GGIM.
His Excellency Dr. Mulatu Teshome, President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Honorable Ministers, distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor and pleasure for me to welcome you all to Addis Ababa to participate in this 4th High-Level Forum on the United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management. I also would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for honoring our invitation and taking time off your busy schedules to attend this high-level global conference. Today it is an historic moment, as it is for the first time that representatives of so many countries and international organizations, global industry leaders, as well as world-renowned experts on geospatial information have gathered in one place for the first time in the African continent. It is an honor and a pleasure to hold such a meaningful meeting at the United Nations Economic Commission headquarters in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and hope that this 4th high-level forum on UN Global Geospatial Information Management would enhance the global collaboration in the field of geospatial information. Finally, let me wish you productive and exciting deliberations in the coming 3 days. Please also try to take time off your busy schedules to enjoy the various cultural and recreational attractions of Addis Ababa and its environs. With this brief statement, I call upon His Excellency Dr. Mulatu Teshome, President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, to officially open the 4th High-Level Forum on United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management. Thank you.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure for me to be here with you today to deliver this opening address at the 4th High-Level Forum on United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management, with the forum theme of Good Land Governance for the 2030 Agenda. On behalf of the government and people of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, and my own behalf, I would like to welcome you all to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. I'm pleased that this forum, the first of its kind to be held in Africa, is being held here in Addis Ababa, the seat of the Africa Union headquarters, and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, as well as other important regional organizations, and hence a diplomatic capital of Africa. The theme of this conference, Good Land Governance for the 2030 Agenda, is also mainly appropriate for our continent, Africa, as most of the laudable and much anticipated 17 goals of the United Nations 2030 Agenda cannot be achieved without the introduction of modern land management system accompanied by good land governance. This is because of the fact that land is the single greatest resource in almost all countries, and particularly so for sub-Saharan Africa. Land is next to human resources and the most important resource that touches upon all aspects of lives of our peoples. Hence, land is fundamental for economic development and poverty alleviation, and thereby improving the livelihoods of our peoples and ensuring the sustainable management of our natural resources, all of which are the main tenets of the United Nations Agenda 2023 for Sustainable Development. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, further to its alignment with the United Nations Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development, good land governance is also aligned with Agenda 2063 of our continental organization, the Africa Union. Among the 7 aspirations for the Africa we want of the AU Agenda 2063, a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development, an Africa of good governance, where prevalence of democracy and respect for human rights as well as justice and rule of law are guaranteed. And eventually, a peaceful and secure Africa cannot be realized unless we ensure good land governance in our continent. Africa's priorities are well reflected in the Sustainable Development Goals, the Paris Agreement, and the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, reflecting the commitments made by the international community in global and regional development frameworks, offering tremendous opportunities to eradicate poverty. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, coming closer to home, my country, Ethiopia, my government has been pursuing a policy of sustainable and equitable development in our country to attain our vision of eradicating poverty and become a middle-income country by the year 2025. In this regard, we have managed to attain a double-digit growth of 11% on average consecutively for the past 12 years. Our recently launched second growth and transformation plan, which covers the period 2015 to 2020, is devised to build on our past achievements and continue with this trend to ensure that our 2025 vision is realized. In order to succeed in this laudable objective of accelerated, sustainable, and equitable development efforts, my government recognizes the good governance in general and good land governance in particular are critical. In this recognition and understanding that has led us to embark upon the implementation of modern land management tools and systems in both rural and urban Ethiopia. Currently, the implementation of modern land management systems is in full swing in the rural areas of the 4 major regions of our country that are mainly sedentary agriculture based, and all the major cities and towns of Ethiopia. In this endeavor, we have come to realize that geospatial information-related products and services, such as remotely sensed imagery like aerial photographs and satellite imagery, ground survey data, and maps of appropriate scale are essential tools for implementing a transparent, fit-for-purpose, and modern land management system, and thereby ensuring good land governance in support of sustainable economic and social development. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is in this regard that developing countries like Ethiopia need to develop their capacity in the generation, compilation, analysis, and dissemination of authoritative, accurate, and timely geospatial informations. I believe the establishment of the United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management and its affiliate regional entities will help member states, and mainly those of us from developing countries, to build our capacity and capability in the multifaceted application and use of geospatial information for much needed sustainable development in our respective countries and the world at large. Among the many benefits of the United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management, organizing such high-level forums that bring together policymakers, executives, and experts of geospatial industry was our appreciation. The forum enables member states and other geospatial stakeholders with a unique opportunity to raise political awareness and to share and learn from each other new ideas, methods, and strategies to support local, regional, and global geospatial information management initiatives. Hence, I call upon all the participants of the fourth high-level forum to actively engage in the panel discussions full of eminent keynote speakers and panelists, as indicated in the very well-crafted and topical agenda for the next 3 days. It is my pleasure again to wish you productive and invigorative discussions enriched with actionable recommendations that will raise the visibility and appreciation of geospatial technologies in the economic and social sectors of our world. I also wish you a pleasant and enjoyable stay in Addis Ababa, and with this brief address, I declare the fourth high-level forum on United Nations Global Spatial Information Management officially open. I thank you.